Allow me to talk a little bit of the aftermath and some miscellaneous thoughts as it relates to 9/11, 2001. 2,978 people killed directly. So that's not even including the eventual indirect deaths from long-term effects of what was in the air. Over 6,000 people injured, in addition to at least $10 billion in infrastructure and property damage. I think most people's word association with victims in the towers is a picture of an office worker or upper management type. But remember that the World Trade Center has the word world within it for a reason. Tourists were there, guides, waiters, cashiers, mechanics, janitors, custodians, operators, artists, children, random patrons and pedestrians, workers from other establishments. The same thing goes for those on the haunted planes. Ultimately, people were forced to watch and star in the highest costing movie ever. And yes, people survived, but that memory of that day is forever engraved within their minds. One survivor pointed out how there's a whole generation that doesn't know about that day. And I'm like, wow, that's right. There's a bunch of people that don't realize the effects of that day or how chaotic it was. It's like 9/11 is no different than Pearl Harbor or the moon landing to them. Just a history assignment or a note in the textbook. Channels like The Press Ginger pointed out how there were people inside the towers that never made it out and never even knew what was happening. That September 11th, 2001 wasn't even a thing to them, just a date on the calendar and just the moment that they were experiencing. They had no idea of the intent to do harm to them, the impending doom that was on its way, the casualties. They didn't have the luxury of news to prepare them. We weren't even able to thank the curled up flight attendants and passengers giving updates on what info they had in the heat of the hijackings. Where's their proper PR and applause? At the Pentagon, we lost a lot of good and skilled defense people. And these people weren't on the battlefield. They were behind the comfort of indoors. I think about the lost art and photos and private property within the towers and nearby buildings, and even the planes. All the general memories that just got wiped away. Even all the papers and maybe important files you see blown away. I've literally been thinking about everything from that day. The recovery efforts. I think we can overlook the idea of searching for things while expecting or not expecting dead bodies to turn up. Not to mention moving everything that was necessary from Manhattan to Staten Island to search through and retrieve things. Supposedly, rescue teams had to pretend to be buried so that they can allow the rescue dogs to save them, because even the rescue dogs were getting depressed from only finding dead bodies. Imagine it being that bad on that day. Oh, and imagine now being in a war zone for years in a country where US culture isn't the most admired, trying to find the mastermind of all this damage. Where do you begin? Are you brave enough to enter their turf relatively blindly, where they have the home field advantage? And if those demons are capable of 9/11, what do you think is stopping them from taking you out the moment you get caught slipping? How well do you perform under the pressure of a nation relying on you to secure revenge and accountability? And that's all the aftermath. Don't forget the prior math, the science, the architecture and construction, all the bravery, risk, and hard work that went into building all those affected monuments. The towers weighed about 500,000 tons, not even including the weight of the people inside. And that all came down in seconds, over 100 miles an hour. A lot of that turned into dust and smoke instantly. 2001 was at the start of the 21st century. Why don't we have more effective firefighting tools by then or by now? Where's the air vehicles to put out high-rise fires quickly? And you can even kind of think, like, why do we even build so high when there's just about zero chance of saving someone up there in an emergency? People were stranded on top of the Twin Towers roofs. Think how terrifying that is, especially as they crumbled down. Many people with beards, particularly with any ethnic-looking accessories or headwear that looked what other people might label Middle Eastern, Muslim, Arab, were ignorantly profiled and discriminated against. And it's ignorant because the terrorist hijackers all had little or no facial hair, and apparently no head wraps before they boarded the planes. Plus, they collectively could have even passed for white, Hispanic, Southeast Asian. One looked like he could have been mixed with black. Some additional education. Middle Eastern people have a variety of appearances, and there's even more Muslims than them. Muslims for sure have a variety of appearances, and outfits, and accents, and beliefs, and so on. Also, consider that one hijacker was Egyptian, which makes him African. If you want to talk ambiguous and complex, see Egypt, a transcontinental country. Now, I see color, I see patterns. I just don't get how we mix it up with race, ethnicity, nationality. I know Muslims, Christians, and Jews of every color. I even met a black Buddhist. And having interracial babies means that we can blend every possible demographic in the world. And finally, what have you done to honor or appreciate all the innocent people in situations you were just forced to think about? Was it just about losing a part of New York City's skyline or inconveniencing you at airports now? Did you even give a real thought about the situation everybody was in, like I just tried to help you do? It's 22 or so years beyond your limitations and capacity to feel anything for others. Do you care? Or did you need to be there for it to mean something? I just really hope that I sparked at least a little more compassion than you had before. I know it's cliche, but let us never forget September 11, 2001.